Hi my salty pecans, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Pamela, and on today's video I'm going to be continuing along the lines of the mental health and plant care sort of videos that I've been filming on my channel. And today's video is really going to be me telling you, sharing with you all my winter plant transition from summer to fall into winter. So if you're interested in just hearing the few things that I want to share with you all in regards to what I do to keep my plants, help keep my plants afloat during the colder months, then keep on watching. So welcome back everybody. I am going to go ahead and jump right into the video and mention the first thing I decided to do in regards to my winter fall plant care routine, and that is transitioning my outdoor plants indoors. For the first time this year, 2021, I decided to place some of my indoor plants outdoors onto my fire escape. And I decided to do that because I picked the cactus in my collection, of course, because in New York the weather, it's all over the place in the summertime. It's blistering hot some days and it's milder on other days. So I wanted the cacti to just get as much, sun rays as they can, so I put them out in the fire escape. I dreaded bringing them back indoors because honestly, they are more of a tropic, heat, hot, dry sort of deserty plants, and I want them to get as large as they can. And living in the Northeast, right, in New York, I don't have the wonderful luxuries of having, Floridian heat like some of you may. So yeah, I dreaded bringing them back in, but I had to bring them back in, and I had to keep an eye out for the temperature. It is recommended that you bring your plants when fall temperature hits around 54 degrees to avoid your plants freezing. You don't want your big luscious beauties to turn into mush, because that is literally what's going to happen. The roots will freeze, the plant itself will freeze, and it's going to go through this this rapid period of freezing thawing and turn into just like aloe gel, pretty much mush. So I just monitored the temperature and I noticed, okay, it's going to be consistently like 54 and under for the next coming weeks. So I knew, all right, this is the exact day I needed to bring my plants indoors. So that was the first thing I did. And when bringing my plants indoors, because they are outdoors, another thing you have to worry about is bringing outdoor pests that you never had to deal with indoors. Like I mentioned, my plants were actually on the fire escape, so it was not around other plants, it was not around like trees for it to get in contact with like pests, but in reality it was like riddled with insects and other sort of pests. It's out there in nature, so you never know what is flying in the wind. I noticed plenty of times there were like a bunch of ants just like crawling up and down my euphorbias. So if another thing you did not know, ants is like just a huge carrier of so many like microorganisms, like pests, like aphids, mealybugs, I believe, scale. They like to just like hitchhike on ants' backs, and the ants will transfer them to other plants. And also ants tend to have a symbiotic relationship with certain insects, like I mentioned. So hey, Miss Lola, have a symbiotic relationship with other insects. So I definitely wanted to do a pesticide treatment for the plants that were outdoors when bringing them in, because nobody wants to really like screw up their collection with insects because you naively, unknowingly, negligently just infested your collection with outdoor pests, because it is what it is, right? So definitely did a systemic treatment for all of my plants that were outdoors and brought them in to help avoid any mess that could happen. So that is the first thing I did for my plant collection from summer to fall to winter, is transitioning the summer outdoor plants back indoors. Remember, many of the plants that we have in our collection are tropical, subtropical plants, so you always want to try to emulate and imitate the plant's natural, environment in your home, because at the end of the day, that's the point of us having them, is to have them look beautiful like they would look in their native home, in our, in our home that we're trying to provide them now. With the pesticide treatment, make sure you get under the foliage, make sure you wipe down the top of the foliage, the stems, the stalks, and even get in the soil. That's why I always recommend a systemic treatment, because systemic means it's getting down in the roots, inside of the veins, the channels, everything, the whole system of the plant. Definitely do systemic treatments, whether it's a natural systemic or a chemical systemic. Like I mentioned, wiping down your foliage is another big thing that I recommend to do for your plants, to transition them from summer to fall to winter, because if you know your plants photosynthesize, photosynthesis just means your plants absorbing light to create that light into energy for it to feed itself and go through the whole CO2 O2 exchange process. So by wiping down your leaves, you're removing dust, which is in turn an actual filter for your plants to not absorb as much sunlight. So especially if we know that we are not having long periods of daylight, and also that light itself is not as strong, wipe down your foliage to help your plant absorb as much of that dimmer light as it can. And in regards to lighting, because in the past my collection was smaller, but over the years my collection has grown, and also the way I treat and products that I have for my plants have also changed. So in the past I never used grow lights because I had enough window space to provide natural light to all my plants. But again, over time my collection has grown. I no longer have as much window space, and then the light from the window itself is more filtered because there are more plants absorbing all that light. So using a grow light to supplement the natural lighting that you might not have is another thing that I decided to do. I use my grow lights year round in certain areas that don't get strong or any sunlight at all, but especially in the winter fall months I recommend to use grow lights because of that very reason. Lastly, in regards to plant care, is watering. Definitely for some plants I have decreased the rate of watering. So when I speak about rate, I just mean how often I'm watering it, but I still do not decrease the quantity of water I provide. I always recommend that you top water your plants. Even if you're somebody who likes to soak their plants, definitely pour some water on top for all of those superficial roots to get watered nicely, and any maybe like top areas that need watering, top water your plants and then let it sit in the water for, I would recommend like a half hour or even an hour. Absorb as much as it needs and then toss out any water that's in the saucer. You never want to have your plants just living in sitting water. Certain plants that do not like to sit in sitting water, like a monstera, I would never leave it in like standing water, nor would I leave my snake plant in sitting water, but I would definitely leave a fern in that. Maybe Hoya polyneura, I wouldn't mind leaving in like a little saucer of water because they like in my home to stay moist. So certain plants, like I mentioned, I have decreased the rate of watering, but I have not decreased the quantity of water that I provided, because the plant will only absorb as much as it needs, and when it's done absorbing what it needs, it's not absorbing it and if you're leaving the water, it's not absorbing, that will lead to root rot. You're probably wondering about fertilization, because everyone always talks about, oh, fertilize in the spring and in the summer and don't fertilize in the fall and winter. I fertilize in the fall and winter. Why? Well, because your plants continue to grow in the fall and winter months. Most of my plants continue to grow in the fall and winter months. So I do not feed my plants the same quantity of fertilizer, but I still dilute it even more. So let's say in the summer, it would recommend me to do a tablespoon of fertilizer. So now I might do a quarter of a tablespoon of fertilizer during the winter months to then dilute it in whatever amount of water and fertilize all of my plants. That is just personally what I do. Always watch your plants in your home. These are just my recommendations for what I do in my home. Again, we are now moving from the summer to fall to winter months. That means your space, your air is more dry. It is drier. So definitely try to increase the humidity in your home. If you do not own a humidifier, then maybe a pebble tray would also work for you. Apologies for the hissing. That's my heater. It just turned on. Let me close out the video. That is all I want to share with you all in regards to my fall winter plant transition routine. If you have any questions, please let me know by leaving down in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe, become a salty pecan, join this little cookie family because we're pretty awesome here. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you on the next one. Let's get growing. Bye! So transitioning those plants indoors was the first thing I decided to do in my, oh, come on. Stop, move.